There was the letter sitting in my mailbox, and I saw that it was from Jamaica, probably a listener, because it said, Mr. Stan Hustad, care of Morning Sounds, Trans World Radio, Bonaire, Netherlands Antilles. Well, I was the host for a well-known program literally going throughout the Caribbean and, indeed, much of the world, simply called Morning Sounds. Opened the letter, and the gentleman said, like your program, Stan. Like it a lot, even like some of the music. But tell me something. Do you guys ever talk about anything but God? What an interesting question. Well, of course we do. But could that tell us something about how we need to present ourselves and our lives, and perhaps how we should do radio on the air as a Christian? Really challenge me. And I'd like to tell you a little bit more about that, and then I'd like to talk about something besides God, and that is the upcoming Super Bowl and all of those famous what are the best Super Bowl ads of all time. That's coming up. This is, by the way, the Jesus Entrepreneur, the Christian Entrepreneur Network. My name is Stan Hustad, and the program for this Super Bowl weekend starts right now. And indeed, thank you for your time. And I trust that this will be a good weekend for you. Hopefully, you'll catch up a little bit on your work, maybe some rest, reflection, and some worship. And then maybe later in the Sunday evening, rather than having your usual Sunday night meeting with me, you may be watching the world-class football game called the American National Football League Super Bowl. And obviously, there will be about 130 to 150 million people all around the world who will be joining you in just that. Well, you know, that letter from long, long ago had challenged me. Now, actually, I thought I was pretty good about that because, let's face it, usually when you tune into a radio station that technically is about the faith, the Christian faith, it's almost what is kind of said to be a lot of God talk, spiritual talk. At least that's kind of the slang that is used. And it primarily is about those things of the Spirit, about Bible, about faith, about how we should live. But there was that great question. Stan, don't you ever talk about anything else? Well, of course I do. I talk about sports, I talk about politics, I talk a lot about history. I've got a whole bunch of interests that I talk about all the time. Obviously, I talk about my faith. Obviously, I try and bring it up from time to time in conversations. People certainly know where I stand on most things, if they care. But that changed me and challenged me, and right then a lot of my broadcasting and my teaching and speaking and business work took a little different angle where I tried more and more to make sure that it was the life that my audience was in, that we were both in, and then occasionally and usually we would bring into the context the subtext of our conversation about Jesus, the Master Entrepreneur, which is what I call him right now. Jesus, the Master Entrepreneur, JTME. Now, on this program, we do talk about other things. First of all, we want to make sure that we talk about taking care of business. Yeah, how do you take care of business? You spend most of your time, 40, 50, 60 hours a week, taking care of business. That's what you have to do. That's certainly a significant part of our life, and we really need to talk about that. Being fully alive. You know, Jesus said, I've come that you might have life. You might have freedom. things will kind of flourish and run over from time to time. So we want to talk about being fully alive, living as an entrepreneur, and then, of course, following Jesus, the master entrepreneur. That wonderful old benediction that was picked up in the film and the movie Godspell, we want to, in effect, guess what? We want to see him more clearly. We want to love him more dearly and follow him more nearly. But in the meantime, too, we will talk about you and your life and your business and how all of those things can come together, because there is no sacred stuff and then secular stuff. It is about life together. Just as Jesus was a man and Jesus was God. Together he was. And that's vital to know. And in some ways, he tells you and I, you can be a lot like me. In fact, that's the goal. Follow me. And you're made in God's image, but now try to be like me. So that you're not only created, you are like me. So that's a little bit of the background of where I'd like to go. But it's fun because, and that's why, when I talked about the Super Bowl commercial, that is, as Jesus said, we pointed this out, hey, the ways of the world, you got to understand them, you got to function in them, you got to know how to do it. He said you got to be wise and streetwise, and you've got to be sophisticated enough that you can handle yourself as I handled myself. So that wonderful line, which really catches a lot of people off guard, you got to be wise as a serpent and gentle as a dove. You got to be smart and savvy and be able to handle things, just kind of like that serpent, and yet gentle and loving and kind as a dove. Walk in that tension, Stanley, he says, just as I did. Learn how to handle yourself and learn how to use the things of the world, the stories, the pictures, the circumstances, the problems, and learn how to use those to direct people to how you can help them and how together, you and I, Jesus says to me, how we can help, serve and save them. So that's part of where we're going. Then I introduced you to something you need to make sure you study a great deal. I just introduced it to you. You need to take some more coaching on it. The mark of almost every commercial is, A-I-D-D-A. In some way, you're trying to put together something that will touch people in such a way, and you're seeking to get their attention, keep them interested, desire something they'd like, help them understand what the decision is, the deal is that they have to make, and then, of course, perhaps direct them and guide them to something they should do. And as we're going to find out, it may be as simple as, you know what? It's time to go have a Coke. There you go. Attention, interest, desire, decision, action. Next speech you give. Think about that. Next a sales presentation you give. Think about that. Whenever you're trying to persuade somebody of your idea, your course of action, or something you think they should believe and do, attention, interest, desire, decision, the deal that has to be made, and to carry it out, the action, and the achievement that you will come up with. A-I-D-D-A. Well, you've got that in mind now, and there's more to it. You can reach out to me at radioedge77@gmail.com, radioedge77@gmail.com, And I would be more than happy to do some personal coaching with you and your colleagues and an entire business. Because learning how to do your 60-second Super Bowl commercial will be the best thing you can do for your business. Here's what it does. First of all, it means that instead of a boring strategic planning session, you are actually talking about how you want people to know you, how you want people to know what you do, how you want people to feel about you, what you want to offer people. In effect, that will be the way for you to describe where you want your business to be, who you want it to serve, what will be your message, what will be your offer, what will be the benefits. If you write a good Super Bowl commercial, you have made a strategic plan for the next year, because now you're going to try and carry out so that that commercial will be a reality not only in you, but in the people you're trying to reach, teach, and connect and make a deal with. Because that's what business is about. It's, I have this. It will help you. You have something I want. I believe it'll help me. Let's exchange. I get the goods, the services, the experience, and you are compensated in some way. Most likely in money. That's business. That's how it's done. Now, with that in mind, let's have a little fun. I went back and read an article which came from an organization which I like to get because I'm a Renaissance interested person. It's a designer's magazine, of all things. I don't know anything about design except that I love good design. And my good friend Scott Frankel recommended that I get this. It's called Creative Block. CreativeBloq. And you can go to www.creativeblock.com, and I sign up for one of their daily newsletters. And this is what hit today. Super Bowl ads 2019, the best Super Bowl commercials ever, and what creatives can learn from them. So the gentleman's name is Tom May. So let's take a quick break and come back. And let me tell you what he thought were the best Super Bowl ads ever. And then you tell me whether you agree with Mr. Tom. I'm Stan Houston. This is the Jesus Entrepreneur Experience. This is Radio What It Takes from the Christian Entrepreneur Network. Reach me at radioedge77@gmail.com, radioedge77@gmail.com, tcenglobal.org, tcenglobal.org. And if you'd like to help me out, here's a little bit of ad, tcenglobal.org/contribute now. We are a nonprofit, and we are here to serve you, and we would be grateful if you would help us out. There we go. Simple as that. We'll be back.
Day by day, day by day. Oh, dear Lord, 3 things I pray. To see Thee more clearly, love Thee more dearly, follow Thee more nearly, day by day.
Well, have you thought about it? Well, I'm just going to kind of run through these rather quickly, and then you can decide what you think about that. All right? Super Bowl ads, the best Super Bowl commercials ever. And what do you have in mind? Well, first of all, he said number 1 is, hey kid, catch Coca-Cola. It was the Super Bowl. It was an award-winning Super Bowl during the 1979 showdown between the Los Angeles Rams and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it appears in countless great ads, and for good reason. The setup is simple. Classic advertising effortlessly tugging on the audience's heartstrings. A 9-year-old boy approaches the notoriously surly Steelers defensive tackle, Mean Joe Green, after a game as he limps back to his dressing room. The child offers him his Coca-Cola, but gets only a scowl and turns away dejected. Then comes the playoff, as the player calls after him, smiles, and throws him his jersey. Do you remember that one? They say that's the best one. Mean Joe Green. And just simply, it looks like it's going to be a terrible thing. And all of a sudden the story turns happy. And right in the middle of it is, Coca-Cola. Number 1, Tom says. Well, number 2 is the one that I remembered the most. This is 1984, and this is the world-famous Apple commercial. And many of you know what happens. The enemy is IBM, the big brother of machines. And the runner comes and jumps into a board meeting and takes a briefcase kind of javelin throw and smashes the presentation screen. And of course, we now discover that Microsoft, IBM, all of those big names are being challenged by Apple. And it introduced the Macintosh, and millions of Macintoshes were sold. The 1984 Apple commercial. Do you remember that one? Very significant in advertising history. Okay, now, what do you think number 3 was? Well, this is not my favorite at all, but he put it at number 3, called What's Up? And what it is, it's from 1999, and it is 5 or 6 guys who just call each other up, and they use that now world-famous expression, what's up? Kind of, what's up, Doc? And, of course, the answer is, well, just watching football and having a bud. I didn't particularly like that one. I'm nothing against anything particularly, but they said that obviously changed. What's up became a worldwide expression. Those of us who now have the WhatsApp know that part of it, where it came from, is there. And so they say, what's up? From 1999 was number 3 when it comes to a great ad. Number 4. This was a cute one. Maybe we don't remember it quite as well because that happened before we were overwhelmed with so much Star Wars thing. But it just so happens that back in the pre-Force Awakens year of 2011, Star Wars nostalgia meant that this clever conceived Super Bowl commercial for Volkswagen was an instant hit. During the commercial, the ad shows a young boy dressed in a Darth Vader costume trying to control items around the house, as Darth could do, including the washing machine, the clothes dryer, using the Force. Well, his efforts fail. He becomes increasingly disheartened, and then he tries his magical powers on the family car and is astonished when it roars into life. Although the viewer knows that it's actually his dad using the remote control. But the little boy is delighted that his Force magic worked. And it was very, very popular, and it did Volkswagen a whole lot of good, in which they demonstrated the remote control. That now, they say, was number 4. And then number 5, Ram Trucks 2013. And I remember this one. So God made a farmer. God made a farmer. Absolutely. For ads to make an emotional connection that's vital to success, humor can be a powerful tool. But Super Bowl ads don't have to be funny. Serious can work too. So God Made a Farmer begin life as a speech given by radio broadcaster Paul Harvey at the 1978 Future Farmers of America Convention. Now, many of you may have heard that speech. A pastiche of the creation narrative in the Bible, book of Genesis, it stirringly describes the noble characteristics of a farmer, beginning with the phrase, "And on the eighth day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, 'I need a caretaker.' So God made a farmer." Wonderful, incredible ad. And all kinds of nice, warm feelings about Ram trucks. Well, there we go. Number 6 is called The Next Big Thing from Samsung 2013. And you can check that one out if you wish. Now, what I want you to do is, as I have said, go to creativeblock.com and you can find this yourself, this entire article. And in the notes for the program today, you'll also see I've given you the link to Tom May's wonderful article on That's the Best Super Bowl Ads. I would simply ask you to tell me this. These were 6. Give me 7. What would be your answer to you think is the best Super Bowl ad that you can remember? What's the best one that you remember? And write in and tell me why at radioedge77@gmail.com. radioedge77@gmail.com. I'm Stan Houston. This is the Jesus Entrepreneur Experience. This is the Christian Entrepreneur Network. We've had some fun. Now, let's have a closing word to our little story. I'll be right back. It will be interesting for me to say to you, and as you read the article, what would you, as a creative salesman, creative marketer, a creative entrepreneur, what can you learn from all of these very popular messages and lessons? And do you begin to see how the attention and the interest and the desire and the decision action kind of flows out? What they're trying to do is very much get people to desire a change. And if you noticed, here's lesson 3. All of these are not features and benefits and sales presentations. They are all stories. One of the lessons we teach you here at the Christian Entrepreneur Network as you're doing life and business is a paraphrase of a famous quote that I use a lot. Fortunately or unfortunately, in some ways, it's become part of who I am, but I admit, as much as I love it, I borrowed it from a woman named Rebecca Pippert, who was very good at teaching people how they could introduce people to Jesus. And she said something like this: the master teacher came into the world and he told stories and asked questions. So what do? We preach sermons and give answers. And that changed me profoundly. I found out that's a lot of what I was doing. I was telling people things. I was, in effect, preaching at them, not preaching to them, and not speaking with them, and not telling stories with them. And I needed to ask more questions and lay off the answers. And I discovered that, in effect, a truth told is good but seldom heard. A truth revealed has greater yield. A truth discovered through a good story is best of all, and a truth imposed is, of course, no truth at all. And how many salespeople, how many evangelists, how many of us as parents, we try and impose a truth. And an imposed truth is no truth at all. And what we're trying to do is help people, as Jesus did, to discover the truth for themselves. Please let that sit on your head for a while. And you see, that's the lesson. Your Super Bowl commercial, figure out the power behind the 60-second message. Attention, interest, desire, decision, action is kind of a formula to help you create a story. An STH story. A story that touches the heart. A story that makes people smile. All good marketing makes people smile. I'm done. Thank you for your time. Hopefully this has been helpful to you. Why don't you listen to it a couple times, maybe 3 times? Or as one of my mentors would say, if it's any good, you ought to listen to it 7 times. And then you know it, and it becomes a part of you. So there we go. My name is Stan Houston. I would be grateful if you'd give me the opportunity to help you build your business and help you become more fully alive. We do a lot of performance coaching. We have a lot of events, and we can help you as a Christian entrepreneur to become more alive, to build a business that matters and makes a difference, and then be able to creatively tell the story so that people come to you and your business. That's what we want to have happen, and we welcome that opportunity. Once again, this is the Christian Entrepreneur Network. This is the Jesus Entrepreneur Experience. Please listen to us every time we're on, and then check us out and become a part of the network of people who want to change their world, maybe change the world, make a business that is really something that matters, and it literally changes things for you, your family, your community, the common good, the place you worship, and perhaps even for the glory of God. Have a good weekend. Best and blessings, and bye for now.